Welcome to the Prolific Pulse Poetry Podcast and YouTube. We're very honored today to have Dr. Joy here today, or Joye Pugh. Or actually, it's Dr. Joye Jeffries Pugh, if I want to be accurate about it. But we're going to call her Dr. Joy. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for asking me to be on your show today. I'm very excited about it.
Wonderful. And as we do feature poets, we did find that Dr. Joy is a poet of the latest book called Joy. Well, maybe you could tell us about your book.
Yes, it's Colours of Joye II, and it's poetry, prose, and spiritual awakening. And it was released just at the end of October of last year.
Okay, I'm going to share a picture of that book. Just one moment here. There we go. It's a beautiful cover. Absolutely gorgeous.
You know, I really took a long time to really pray about a cover, the covers of the books that I write, and I've written a lot of books. But it was really important for me to find in this particular book something of a cover that would really tell me all the things that I went through to really get to know Jesus the way I feel like you need to know him. And those colors, just seeing the way that they were put on that cross like that, gave you an indication of how our lives really go through different phases and different colors. And so
Yes.
that was what made me choose the name Colours of Joy, because I have been up, I've been down, I've been through sad situations, I've been through happy times and that kind of thing. So my poetry reflects that. And the first book that I did, Colours of Joy, I actually did when I was a high school senior. And that was one of the things back then that I chose the colors, because I had been through a lot of ups and downs. I'd been through some sicknesses. I'd really been through some trials and tribulations, as well as some positive things. So when I decided to go back and do another Colours of Joy, of course, two, like I say, trying to find that right cover that would really be reflective of what we go through in our lives, in our own lives. What are the colors of each day that we kind of, I guess, attribute to the ups and downs of life that we may encounter? And sometimes they're bright, and sometimes they're not so bright.
Right.
Sometimes they're really red, and sometimes they're burnt orange. So it's a different feel. So I was real pleased when they allowed me to kind of have an idea and use a cover like that, because I really felt like it reflected what I was trying to say in my work.
Did you create the picture yourself, or did you have an artist that understood your concept?
Well, I had actually created the concept, and then we used an artist that had this and had already designed it. And so it was kind of like amazing that you had an idea about something, and then you found someone who really had
Yes.
that capability. So I was real thrilled when I saw it, because it really was exactly what I wanted. It's one of those things. One of the books that I did called Parables of Joy on a Georgia Farm. Before I actually wrote that book, I had been writing like stories, and I had envisioned a certain little girl working on a pair of angel wings. And would you believe, when I got through writing that book, I contacted this artist, and she was like, "Yes, I'll be glad for you to use that as the cover of your book." But it was identical to what I had had in my mind and had a concept. So it seems like the books that I've done in the past, that there's always been, I prayed a lot about it, because I wanted the book really the cover to reflect what was a part of what was in the book itself. So it's kind of amazing when you do a lot of praying about things and you really believe God. Always, he just comes through with the most amazing things to help you, and it's always a thrill, and it's also a confirmation that when you do something for him, that he has a rhyme and a reason behind it. Sometimes we don't understand all the bad stuff that we go through. And I guess that's the thing, that I can look back at my life now and really see that the colors of joy put me to where I needed to be on this pathway for what he needed for me to do in his kingdom for his glory. So it's just, I'm amazed by it. It's almost like, and I love this poem called Footprints, and I know most everybody has seen that.
Mhm.
But when you look back and you see that one set of prints and you know he was carrying you, I feel
Yes.
that way through my work and all the books that I've ever done. I'm like, sometimes I wrote probably under the most duress of situations, but it seems like once it was done, it affected other people.
Yes.
And it was something that maybe sustained me, and I didn't even realize how it was sustaining me during some difficult times. It allowed me to express myself. It allowed me to be closer to God. It allowed him to give me understanding, give patience and long suffering and all the things that we typically think we're not good at.
Mm-hmm.
During those times, especially with writing, I found that that's how he has helped me through some, oh, terrible times. So, like I say, this Colors book, I really am excited that it's out because it really does reflect a lot of things that I've gone through in my life.
Yes, and so the poetry that you shared with me, it's really touching, and I know you're going to be reading some of that today. It just, to me, the poetry when you write the way you write your poetry, when a person reads this, they can get a feeling of strength, a feeling of hope, a feeling of joy, and relate to the different meanings behind the poetry. And it's another way of reaching people. Uh,
Well, like I say, I've written a lot of books, and I write a lot of books about end of days and things of that nature that are Christian books. And then the other thing that I have done is that I wrote and produced, actually through a company, an album of my original songs that God
yeah.
has given me. And over the course of my years, I had learned to play about 15 instruments. So when I
Wow.
went into the studio to do actually a recording, I had a company who said, we would really like for you to do that, and they did that for me, gave me a contract to do that. And so what I found is that all the years that I had been writing poetry, that I was really writing a lot of songs.
Hmm.
And so, I do have that album that I have done as well. And so it is reflective of the thought process of how you reach people.
Hmm.
Sometimes you can do it through song. Sometimes you can do it through a story. That's one of the reasons I did the parables books that I've written. And then you can do it through poetry, prose, and then you can do it through like nonfiction Christian writing.
Hmm.
And I speak and I do radio shows. So my intent and my ministry is to try to reach everybody, to find some common denominator that people can relate to. Because if you can do that, you can help them understand that we are just not grains of sand floating in a big universe, that we all have a rhyme and a reason, that we are connected to a creator who desperately loves us. And
Hmm.
so this book was very important to me. I didn't want it to be so big that people couldn't read it and enjoy it.
Right.
I wanted to write it, and I always tell people to read it slowly, because
Yes.
that's where you get the meaning, the
Hmm.
intenseness behind it. And I said, sometimes if you want to read through my book and then go back and then slowly read through it again, you will just pick up these little nuggets. And I want it to be such, Lisa, that people can see in my work themselves. That was one of the things,
Hmm.
even with my parables book, was hoping that in a story or in a song, that something about that talks to you, that makes you see a need to have hope again, or to
Yes.
have more faith, or to try harder, or be
Hmm.
inspired, or understand that the days that we're living in were prophesied, and that there is light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, there's all these things that I want to come out of my work, regardless of what it is, whether it be poetry, prose, you know, music, or just my writings. I mean, that's just important to me. The whole aspect of it is trying to minister to people in all areas so that you touch their lives some way. Everybody has a certain way that they learn, and a certain way that they
Hmm.
listen, and the certain way that they are touched. And so I'm trying desperately to find all those little keys so that I can turn the key and open a door.
Yes.
At least in opening that door, you can start seeing that if you are hopeless, or you've had something happen in your life, that there is this peace that passes all understanding. And if you
Mhm.
can ever get to that point, it's an amazing thing to behold. It's amazing to behold. And so that's what I have always had, this, I guess, intense feeling. And I've never been called a prophet, because I don't want to be called a prophet. I do research when I write
Mhm.
and do that kind of thing. But I do think I've been called as a watchman. And I think I've been called as a minister to try to help people get that understanding of what it is to be alive
Mhm.
and to be a part of everything that is, and not feel so disjointed or not connected. Because I think that the more that you really get deeper into your spiritual walk, you understand that we are all brothers and sisters, and how important it is for us to have a life here on earth that we are trying to show the right way, so that we all end up in heaven together, and that
Mhm.
we don't lose people just because we didn't take the time to find out what does make them tick, or what is their sadness, or what is their question that they can't answer. So it's my hope, through my poetry, through my songs, and through my writings and my ministry, that I reach those people. And
Right.
then people like ourselves who are Christian, that we give each other strength. And it's almost like when you have been in, let's say, a meeting, and you get to meet somebody for the first time, and you're almost like you've known them all your life, and you feel this positive influence. It's almost like you get your battery recharged. And I
Mhm.
think that's the thing that I always have wanted to do, is that whatever the situation was, and whatever someone's going through, that they could always contact me and talk about anything, and
Mhm.
not feel any condemnation, that I'm trying literally to find either the root of the problem, or help them turn whatever they think is a stumbling block into a stepping stone. And
Right.
I've seen how all these things have happened. And so that's a part, really, of my research. It's a part of my Colors of Joy II that we're talking about today.
Absolutely. Would you like to read us one of your poems from your book?
Yes, I really would like to. There's several, well, they all have very big meanings to me. And there's one in particular that I feel like helped me in a really terrible situation that I was going through. Um, my husband became very, very ill for years, and I was his total caregiver. And I was sitting at my keyboard one evening, just so distraught. He became totally an invalid with no ability to move, swallow, anything. I did everything for him 24/7. He was on a respirator. He had to be fed through a feeding tube for 16 hours at a drip rate. Everything had to be done for him. And as I was sitting there one night, really trying to, even when you're the greatest Christian, Lisa, you have those moments of just needing to have something told to you. And this particular poem is what came to me, and now I have put it into music as well. So it's called The Mystery of God. Beams of light above my head, a spectrum from the rainbow. My eyes feel the mist within, as the kaleidoscope it draws me in. Angels, are you near me? Be near me. Angels, can you hear me? Hear me. Seeping through the trees, skimming the pond, we're all dancing in the moonlight as one. How is it the stars do not fall from the sky, or that the sun just seems to fly? How is it the moon hangs in the night, or that the universe remains in perfect flight? Sense the emotion, feel the breeze, the essence of a creator who sees. It only takes a moment to believe, so open up your heart and receive. Angels, are you near me? Be near me. Angels, can you hear me? Hear me. Seeping through the trees, skimming the pond, we're all dancing in the moonlight as one. Such are the mysteries of God. Yes, this is the mystery of God. You know, this is the mystery of God. And as a part of that poem in my book, I related to Colossians 2:2, which reads, that their hearts might be comforted, being knit together in love, and to all riches of the full assurance of understanding, to the acknowledgement of the mystery of God and of the Father and of Christ.
That's beautiful, beautiful. Very inspirational and hopeful.
It was for me, and like I say, now that I've put it into music, it really has blessed me on many, many occasions. I go back now, even in the music that I've written, which most of them were actually poems to start off with, and I look back at the music, and I've been able to go and play that music or read these particular poems, even in times now that I have difficulty, or I feel down, or I feel like I need some type of inspiration that will actually inspire me, because it makes me go back to a moment and realize where I was and how God really helped me move to another place. And sometimes we all need that, seeing that God is working in our lives. And sometimes we can't see it until we look back. And I think that's the thing about the Footprints poem that is so inspirational, is that it teaches you that you think you've been going this by yourself until you look back and you see how all that had played out in your life and has made you really who you are.
Mm-hmm.
All these little nuggets have made you who you are. So it has been an inspiration to me. And like I say, a lot of the things that I have written have been during very times of duress and sadness. So it is an inspiration to know that you're not alone, that other people do experience these things. And that is my hope, that, you don't feel like, well, everything's wrong and no one understands and that kind of thing. So many times when I've counseled people, that's the biggest thing, is that they feel that, why is this happening to me? Why did I have to go through this? And when they realize that someone else has been on that same walk at a time in their life, or they've gone through those kinds of things, and you can give someone, like I say, the stepping stones to get through it, instead of allowing them to continually fall over stumbling blocks. Because when we start falling over stumbling blocks, then we lose love and we lose affection, and we turn to things that are only fleeting, whether it be alcohol or drugs or sexual encounters or whatever. Those things will only be fleeting moments. But when you can turn to God, and you turn to the scriptures, and you turn to trying to find out trueness and the roots of situations, it seems that gives you such inspiration to have a foundation. You're building on a good foundation. And so that's what I hope my research and my poetry does, is that it gives you a firm foundation to see that there's hope in this world, in all the things that are going on. And we know that our world is in such a state of turmoil. It's not just the United States, it's all over the world.
Yeah.
And right now, I think when we can be encouraging and we can give people that desire to want to, take a step forward, to be all that they can be in this world. I mean, that's what I want from what I do, is that when you leave reading Colours of Joy, that you now have a greater understanding of yourself, so that you will either sit down and make notes, or take time to write a journal, or do something so that you can go back and
Right.
reflect. Reflection is a wonderful thing, Lisa. It is a wonderful thing. And I feel so blessed that I learned this at such an early age, because I guess I began writing poetry, I would say second grade. I think we had to write a
Oh, wow.
haiku or something in the second grade. And I thought, well, I really liked music all of my life, and I grew up loving music. So I guess because of that, and seeing words rhyme and things of that nature, it really set me on a course at an early age, where I had written a good number of poems by the time I was in the 7th grade. And then, like
Wow.
I say, I had written enough that I had a really good friend who really wanted to do a book for me when I was a high school senior. And like I say, that was Colours of Joye. And it just seems like that just set me on the course for everything else that I have done as far as writing. I've always loved to write. And I think words are beautiful. I think words are inspiring. I think the right words can heal. And I believe, just like the Bible says, that God spoke everything in existence. And the word is so important. And it's such, if you can speak words of love and you can speak words of hope in days that we are living through and the days that are coming, that will sustain us in a faith that we sometimes think, can I go through another second? And I've been there, I've been there.
Yeah.
Can I make it through another night?
Hmm.
Um, and then you look back, like I say, and you have this reflection that you made it, and this is how you did it.
Hmm.
And so, like I say, the Colours of Joye book is about that. It's about that.
What happened to your first book, your Colours of Joy, your very first one?
My first book was a limited edition. Of course, it completely sold out. And so I've never, ever gone back and had that book redone. I guess it was because it was so special to me that I felt like that it was just one of those things that I wanted to keep it as a limited edition. But I had talked to my publisher now, that I work with, about the possibility of going back and doing I guess, a second printing of that
Hmm.
book. And I may do that. And I may do that. We have been kind of in negotiations and talks about the possibility of maybe doing something of that nature. It was just one of those things that, how do you can't go back and replace that moment. And the people that own those books, they still have them, and they're always like, oh my gosh, I never dreamed, in 1975 that she would be on the world scene speaking and talking and being on the History Channel and things of that nature. And so they garner they garner those books pretty. I don't think anybody could buy one from them. So I've really, because it was the first and because it was so special, I've really contemplated about really, my other books I've done second printings on and things of that nature. And, but I've never done that on Colours of Joye. So I've got to make my mind up if I want to take that out of being just a limited edition, or make some kind of change where it's not exactly like the first edition, do something a little bit different. But I may do that because it was my start. It was
Hmm.
what made me begin doing what I do and loving what I do. So it's one of those things. I'm
Yeah, and
still
it could
like
be
in
something that,
limbo, but
yeah, yeah. When since you wrote a lot of the poetry for that up through your senior year, through school and through your senior year, I bet you that kids that are in that age range could also, and teens that could relate to those poems because you were also that age. Maybe that would inspire them to want to write.
well, it might. I remember, and the poems are pretty deep because there were a lot of questions about the end of days. There were things that, because I had had this dream when I was 6 years old about the end of days, a lot of my poetry was in regard to a lot of things happening that I did not understand. And I remember my first year in college, I had a professor and I was telling him about the book, and he said, I'd give anything for you to bring me one and let me look at it and read it. And so I did, and he was like, "Where in the world, where in the world did you get all this, woo, you know, about all of the things that are happening?" So he felt like that it was well ahead, that my concepts were very much ahead of where I should have been at that age. And he was a great inspiration to me by the things that he told me and the things that he shared with me in regard to what I was really feeling.
Mhm.
And like I say, there was a lot of questions during those times growing up, ups and downs and strange things that, happened in your life, and positive and negative, all those kinds of things were kind of a part uh, of the poetry. And the poetry was much more,
Mhm.
instead of where this book, you linger on the words. There were a lot more words in the
Mhm.
poems. And I, because I write music, I have, poems that do have a much more, I guess, meat to the story.
Mhm.
Where this book makes you stop and think. It's
Mhm.
hinging you on words. And that's what I've found in the years that I've read scripture, that you can read a book and a chapter, but there's something about in scripture when you read words, you take the time to really look at each word. And so I think that's what led me to do this book a little different than the first one, where it was more like you were reading a story
Okay.
and a poem, where
Right.
this book makes you hinge on each word to make you think. And I guess that's the thing, is that if you put too much in it, then it's all about you. And I really wanted it to be where it made anybody reading it think about
Mhm.
them.
Right.
And so that's the difference really between Colors of Joy as a young person and
Mhm.
Colors of Joy as a lot older. I'd like to be like 18 again. Oh me, what it's wonderful to think about. I can go back and look at that and read and really remember each. It's funny when you write music or when you write a poem. It's like you remember the day you wrote it. You
Mhm.
remember things that were going on. It takes you back to times,
Yes.
and so it's an amazing thing to have written as long as I've written in my life, and the numbers of poems that have been published and been in newspapers and been in anthologies and different things. I think about each one of them, how important it really was. One of
Yeah.
my poems actually was a winner for my mother. She won Mother of the Year in our
Wow.
area, and it was based on a poem that I did for her, which
I
is
love that.
it's actually framed and in a frame upstairs in one of my bedrooms that I have, where I have a lot of pictures of my mother. She's now passed, but
Mhm.
things like that mean a lot to you, and you
Right.
really can reflect, like I say, on each time you've ever done anything. and,
Mhm.
and so I feel like that, like I say, I hope that people, when they read my work, will get that feeling that it will give them inspiration.
Absolutely. Well, how about sharing another poem with us?
Okay. um the poem that I'm going to do uh now is something that I feel like reflects back to when I was a young girl.
Okay.
And I loved the sky. I love the sky. I love to look at the sky all the time. I think I'm mesmerized by the beauty of the heavens. But there was something about, as a child, the sky at night that
Mhm.
just made me, and even to this day, when I'm outside or if I'm even laying in bed, I have a huge sliding glass door that I can look out at night and see the stars. I literally love that. I just feel like that God's creation is beautiful. So this poem reflects that feeling of what I feel about that, um, the beauty of the sky. And so the name of the poem is The Sky at Night. Look beneath the moon on a starry, starry night. Gaze into the abyss of flickering galaxies. Look into the Big Dipper or the outstretched arms of Cassiopeia. Ponder the stars clustered within Orion's belt. Look into the eyepiece. Behold all the wonders, and witness firsthand the length of eternity stretching from deep within the nebulas of creation's beginnings. Believe not in man, but in God who created him. The beauty abounds before you, look at it, and understand the power of the mighty one who planned it. And then I related that particular poem to Amos 5:8, which says, Seek him that maketh the seven stars and Orion, and turneth the shadow of death into morning, and maketh the day dark with night, that calleth for the waters of the sea, and poureth them upon the face of the earth. The Lord is his name.
Wonderful. Wonderful. It reminds me of when I lived in the Midwest and we had such a in the country like setting and we had the sky. I mean, I would sit out and just enjoy looking up at the constellations and just reflecting, meditating with that.
Well, I was fortunate that my father, and even in my parables books, I wrote a story about the night sky. He bought me my first telescope, and this kind of reflects in the poem where I say, look into the eyepiece. Because I remember as a child, you can see certain things, and of course, living out on the farm, I grew up on a little South Georgia farm, and of course, at night, it was dark. I mean, it was dark. You didn't have like street lights or anything of nature like that. So when you were outside, the sky was very bright and very beautiful. But I will never forget that telescope, looking into that eyepiece for the first time and seeing those constellations so much clearer and so much closer, and how you could feel that you were seeing into the depths of something that would go for infinity and infinity. And it gave you the understanding when God says, beginning, Alpha and Omega, this huge life for all eternity. It gave you that ability to see on and on and on. That, with the naked eye, we can't really do that. But with a telescope, it just gives you this total world that's out there that you can't see, that just goes and goes and goes. And it really helped me as a child grasp the understanding of what it meant to live for all eternity, that it was on and on and on. So I was very blessed growing up on a little South Georgia farm. And I think it, definitely is reflected in this particular poem and in a lot of the poems, and then also in the books that I've written about growing up on a South Georgia farm.
Right. I'm going to share my screen again because I want to show some of the websites. Of course, here's your book. And that's on sacredwordpublishing.com if someone wants to buy a copy of it. Is it available on any other platforms?
I think it's now in availability in Amazon. They have just started I think they've just gotten that where it's in Amazon, but you can click on those links at my website and it'll take you. And then if you want to go to any other, you can go to any other and check on that. But, I'm so blessed to have a group of people who are wonderful publishers who have given me the opportunity of a lifetime to be a contracted, author with them, and for them to really support my work and promote it. It really is very, very, very inspiring to me. And
How many books have you written?
Well, I've done actually a total of 15 books, and I have some that are revised editions, and some that have been made into 2 volumes where they were 1 volume that I went back and updated. So I've had a good number of books now that I've had the opportunity to have written. And so, like I say, at my website there, of course, you're on my album. There's the album, and those are the songs from my album. And if someone's interested in my album, I have a website like your own right there that is a submission form, and that you can send it to me, and I can get that CD out to you anywhere.
Wonderful.
It doesn't matter if if you live in Russia or Germany or wherever, I can make sure that you get a copy of that as well. So all that is very, very, very important to me. And I hope and pray that it can reach, like I said earlier, people who are looking for inspiration in their lives in some really tough times that they may be going through. But there's the list. There's my special parables, and that's written about the handicap. And it really teaches you about the miraculous capabilities of the triumphs of the disabled. And Then before that, of course, was the Antichrist book, and then there's Eden, the Knowledge of Good and Evil, 666. There's a volume 1 and a volume 2 in that. And then, of course, there's my Parables of Joy on a Georgia Farm that talks about all kinds of things that happened in my life on a South Georgia farm. And there's my Beguile series, volume 1, 2, and 3, that are very, very in-depth. And so, you know, I'm
Wow.
thrilled to have had the opportunity
You must
to
do
have done.
spend a lot of time writing.
I did a lot. I've done a lot of writing in my entire life, and it's something that, again, you know, when I started out as a young girl, my hope was to really, you know, to really be a college president or something of that nature. And God had a different place for me where He needed me. I love to do that. And I'm going to use a poem that is actually the poem in the first of the book. And the reason I chose this poem to start my book with is because as a child, the dream that I had when I was 6 years old, I believe that I was up high on this hill and I was overlooking what was going to be the Battle of Armageddon. And it had just occurred, and I was seeing what had happened after all of that. But instead of using the revelation of what this dream gave me, I tried to imagine what it was like seeing it in a beauty that God created in the beginning, when He first, you know, kind of stepped down in space and said, I'll make a world, and what His idea and His concepts were. So I took both of those things and tried to imagine what it was like, even though I had seen this in my dream and what would be to come to pass. I really wanted to go back because my work is Alpha and Omega, beginning and end. So I wanted to get an idea of what would it be like to step out and to see. So this poem is called A View from a Hill. The view of the earth below is of such magnificent beauty. Made with the hands of the Creator, it has no match. There it spins in space, holding close God's creation of man. Riding the wind, I am a view from a hill. Casting my dreams, then watching them soar. The earth moving, rotating, and shaping my life. I am aware of God's presence. At times, I feel Him all around me. Sometimes I see Him lightly veiled before my eyes. Other times, I know it is He whom I feel in my heart. The view is so appealing, I could stay here for the remainder of my life, resting safely each second, balanced and shielded, gently embraced for all eternity within the outstretched arms of my Heavenly Father. I am a view from a hill. And I reflected this poem to Colossians 3:2, which says, set your affection on things above, not on things on the earth.
Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Joy, for coming on here today. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you
And
so
may God
much.
bless. Thank you.
Thank you again so much for having me as your guest. I appreciate it, Lisa. God bless you.
Thank you.